today's Energy Central webcast entitled One Digital Grid Platform, Reliable, Flexible, Simple. Now I'd like to turn the floor over to Matt to kick things off. Matt, welcome to the event. You have the floor.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. We're incredibly excited to be here virtually with you and flattered that you're interested in learning a little bit more about the One Digital Grid platform and more broadly, the digital grid business for Schneider Electric. My name is Matt Schnugg. I am the Chief Product Officer of Digital Grid, and I am here with my brother from another hemisphere, Vladan Krsman. He is Digital Grid's Chief Technology Officer. Today, we're here to showcase a few things. One, the new One Digital Grid platform that was recently announced at Distribute Tech back in March. We think this platform will enable you to build, operate, and modernize your entire grid management ecosystem efficiently and securely. Secondly, we'll review our digital grid product pillars and a new way to buy and consume this world-class product suite. And then third, a use case, one of many that will be unlocked as a byproduct of those first 2 points that I had mentioned. My ask of all of you, a challenge, if you will be to start thinking about the art of the possible. And this challenge goes to our customers on the call, our partners, and yes, even our competitors who are joining. We think that this is a team sport, and collectively we can greatly enhance our ability to move into this more modern world for utility grids. With the technologies that you have seen today, what could you do? What would you do? And everything that we are showing here, I'd love for you all to start thinking about how we could partner for success together. So thank you, and let's dive in here. So before going into the platform, just baselining the situation that we are faced with today. I think anyone who has spent the time to call into this or is watching this at a later period understands the increasing frequency and severity of extreme weather events that are impacting our grid. In fact, over 80% of electricity blackouts have been driven by these types of weather events. Over the last 3 years, this has been 73 different weather events, resulting in upwards of $460 billion of damage, not including the last major event in Southern California, which has been tallied at about $250 billion. This illustrates this critical need for modernizing the power grid, not just from a reactive resiliency perspective, but also from a proactive perspective. What can we be doing today to invest in solutions that will help us get ahead of these events? Let's put a pin in that. We will be talking about that in a little bit. The next major driver of modernization requirements is something that's even more recent, and that is this unprecedented demand growth for energy, driven largely by increases in AI workloads and the new imprint of data centers that are becoming online more and more. If you take a step back and you look in the last decade, there's been just more or less flat growth, be it through just better efficiency gains in appliances, better demand response programs, and more thoughtful accommodation of this potential load growth. But what we're seeing now is a step change. As I had mentioned, the AI data centers are coming online, and electrification from things like transportation vehicles. Ironically, this presents not only a challenge, but also an opportunity. We think that Schneider is uniquely positioned as a leader both in grids, but also within data centers and energy management solutions within those. We are very excited to have announced at the same time of this this One Digital Grid platform, a DC Flex initiative with EPRI. So think of that as a demand response program upstream with our data centers as well, and really thinking about how we can flatten that curve further. That's joined by other market leaders, ISOs, regulators, technology providers, utilities, etc. And really what we're trying to do is look for ways to get more efficient in driving this. Finally, the projected load growth driven by the increasing amount of DERs that are coming online. We think that, as we had mentioned before, electrification is a great thing, but interconnection queues can take up to 5 years. We just cannot wait to do that. So how do we solve this? One, of course, solution is to continue to invest in physical infrastructure. Another is through regulation and policy. We're not here to talk about that today, and we have a limited degree of control over that. Global supply chains are challenged significantly, more so today than even a month ago. And so really one of the driving factors in what can accelerate this transformation as quickly as possible are digital solutions. They have to be a part of the equation, and they're things that will allow you to act right now. So why don't we talk a little bit about that and how Digital Grid supports these utilities with our solutions here. So if we go to the next slide. As many of you know, Schneider Electric is an expert in power systems. We have a digital grid that has been supporting utilities for over 30 years. In fact, the office that Vladan is sitting in is filled with power engineers that have been thinking about this nonstop for that time. And so really what has happened as a result of that is a broad end-to-end set of solutions that span from transmission all the way through distribution and into prosumer, all in one package. Within Digital Grid, we're very proud of our portfolio. As you can see in this little arc here, there's a lot of industry-leading software capabilities, and we'll get into those in a moment, but let's double click on three. First is ArcFM, the expert planning and network modeling solution that sits on top of Esri. It will create the best and most reliable network model that can be used downstream for some of these other products that we'll walk through today. One of those products is the ADMS. Think of it as the command center for all critical systems. One interesting point that we always like to call out is we really did put the A in the ADMS, and combining a series of modules into a singular solution. SCADA, outage management, switching, all of these distribution apps under a single pane of glass. It has become the industry standard now, but it is something that we will continue to invest in modernizing, and it's just a core component of our entire portfolio. Last but not least, DERMS. So this is the full grid to edge device control, and ensuring that all of the DERs that do become brought online can be aggregated responsibly and leveraged, but also managed from the grid perspective as well. Best of all, this entire portfolio, and one of the reasons we're here today, this entire portfolio is natively connected and interoperable. So again, we are setting the industry standard here in terms of our ability to actually go and execute this. So before we look forward, I think it might be good to actually take a step back. I think it's important for a couple of reasons. One, for better or for worse, the utility industry has been lagging a little bit behind other industries in terms of its modernization. There are many good reasons for this, but we like to think of this as an actual opportunity for us. So going back and actually looking at evolutions of other industries to see what kind of precedents have been set and what we can learn in terms of not only what the form factor should be today, but what it should be tomorrow. And a lot of what we think should happen tomorrow has gone and informed how we have built these systems and put them together. And so what I'd like to take, 5 minutes or 10 minutes to talk about is a little bit about this evolution, and maybe tying it back to our industry today. So with this first phase, we really like to call it machine level programming. This was back in the 60s and 70s. I think for many of us, the only interaction we've had with this is through history books. But taking a step back in time, this was literal ones and zeros being typed into a single interface to command a single machine to do a single thing. So there's not a concept of system integration that could be actioned. And really it required a tremendous amount of time and effort from specialists to get this machine to work. You need an intimate design of this thing. I think the reason that I'm harping on this is because if you take a big step back, that really looks like a lot of the siloed systems that have been built for years and years and years in the grid energy management landscape. Systems can only be run by a few people. The ability to get them to interoperate with one another is extremely manual and tenuous. It can only be run by a number of experts within a certain utility of that utility to go and drive action within that. The good news is, by and large, we have actually moved away from these siloed systems into what we think is the next stage of evolution. For software, it was called the operating system. And so within this operating system, really what you're seeing is a couple of things. You're seeing, because you have a single core operating system kernel that can be extracted and put into a multitude of devices. So it's not just a single machine. Suddenly you can have standardized security. You can think about integration more broadly. And you can really talk to how you can create more friendly user experiences as well. This operating system, as you know, was a game changer in the 80s and 90s. It allowed software companies to really proliferate and be pushed onto different pieces of software enabled by this operating system, creating a user experience that was a lot more friendly than machine level programming. The problem was that every one of these software companies would have to build to spec, and then the customer would have to go and look at that spec, compare it against the machine that they were operating, go and purchase that, go and install it on their machine, realize a lot of times that for whatever reason, those two things were not compatible, go back to the computer store and go and apply again. This is not a great user experience, but we think that it is a big step function change from where machine level programming had its users back 10 and 20 years before that. Now, if you look at the analog for grid management systems, we're seeing the same trends today. So again, we talk a little bit about ADMS and this bundled package of great technologies that can be brought together. Fantastic. GIS and bringing together this overlay of geospatial data on top of or below, I guess, grid topology, demand response, customer engagement. These are all a series of functions that can get bundled together and delivered to customers, but still the delivery of these takes years oftentimes and requires up to a year or even longer of negotiations to go and deploy, and just is always keeping utilities and the vendors themselves on their back feet to ensure that everything is put into production, and not looking at the possibilities of a more flexible and agile approach of deploying software. We think that operating systems for the grid are the right step in a direction towards modernization, but it is not the full realization of what we think utilities can do. Operating systems for the grid are incredibly important, but it doesn't scratch the itch of flexibility. The ability to deploy takes a tremendous amount of time still, and we really think that there's another stage. So what is that next stage? What can we look to for software and what that might enable? The answer is either sitting in your pocket, or depending on how well I'm doing this presentation and keeping you engaged, might be in your hands right now. Is the ecosystem. And so the ecosystem, the best maybe not personification, the best representation of this is within your smartphone. So within the smartphone itself, you have a core operating system still, of course, very critical. It's tailored to hardware, and it has great first-party applications. It has a camera, it has the ability to text, has the ability to make phone calls, browse the internet, etc. That comes stock. Those are best in class and drives a great user experience. But that is not what makes the smartphone so compelling. It is the App Store. The App Store allows you to tailor the experiences on your phone to whatever you want. So for me, I may have a banking app. I may have a fantasy baseball app, especially now it's week 4 in the season. And I may have a travel app with Delta and Snapchat. And so this is what has tailored my experiences on my phone. And this is what makes it incredibly valuable for me and something that I never leave the house without. If you were to look at your phone, I would bet you would have an entirely different set of applications because it is your experience. It is something that allows you to be as productive as possible. So if we were to go and look for what we think, again, the analog of that would be for the grid management space, we would say, and maybe if we go to the next slide for a big reveal, we believe that the future of grid management really is a connected ecosystem. And so an important clarification here is that this connected ecosystem is not our connected ecosystem, or Amazon or Microsoft or Google's ecosystem. It is the customer's ecosystem. Every customer has made a different set of investments in Schneider products, in what we would consider competitive products, in adjacent products, in startups, and all of these investments have been made as a decision for that utility to drive actions that they feel are most compelling for their specific situation. There is a tremendous amount of effort to weave these together. And so we at Schneider believe that this connected ecosystem can be enhanced. And the way that it can be enhanced is through a comprehensive digital grid platform. And so really what we're trying to accomplish here is nothing more than allowing each of our customers to embrace the investments that they've made and leverage the capabilities of the data estate that they have earned through day-to-day operations. So what do I mean by that? The first and foremost, really what we're trying to drive is allowing our utilities to continue to focus on their primary goal, which is resiliency, making sure that they're energized, that they're in balance, and that they minimize the amount of downtime for customers. This platform, however, really drives a few other benefits. First and foremost, really enhancing reliability. We like to think of reliability in a number of different ways, but maybe most topical right now is the ability to no pun intended, weather storms. We have solutions that we can talk about probably off call that will allow us to reduce outage time by up to 40%. We think that a lot of this is driven by the ingestion of third-party data and the alignment with third-party partners to go and allow us to enhance our first-party solutions. We're building solutions that will embrace this and will allow you to further embrace this as well. Next, flexibility. Flexibility is a loaded term. We can talk about IT flexibility and the ability to make choices on the vendors that you want to drive to adopt. We can also talk about flexibility in terms of the operational sense of the term, with interconnection queues and ensuring that as DERs become more proliferated, you can leverage all of those DERs to drive the most balanced grid performance, the most cost-efficient grid performance that you can today. And then finally, this is a very important one, particularly from an IT perspective, simplicity. The data point that I love quoting for simplicity that manifests a lot of what we are trying to do at Schneider was a deployment of our cloud DERM solution, wherein we're able to get fully up and running into production in 8 months. Industry standard is 2 years or longer. We think that through a lot of the investments that we've made that Vladan will walk through, this ability will be able to be replicated over and over and over again with many of our customers. Simple deployments, quicker time to value, and ensuring that any upgrades are not happening on a 1 or a 2 year or 3 year cycle, but can happen more and more frequently as you decide as a customer on when you want to go and drive that. All right, so I promised a little bit about packaging. I know this is gonna be exciting for about 3 people on this call. I am one of those 3, so I'm gonna talk about it a little bit. We have modernized our pillar packages as well. So one of the realizations that we made at Schneider Electric is, given the breadth of our grid portfolio and this focus on simplicity, what we needed to make for our customers was a simple set of packages that would allow you to be met at your stage of your journey. So I think the first thing that you're seeing here is 4 separate packaging tiers. This will comprise of bundles of pillar products, and Vladan will walk through what these pillar products are in a moment. So really the way to think about this is for grid operations, for example. You have the opportunity of buying into a broad offering of ADMS modules at essential, standard, progressive, or ultimate levels. You can also purchase Arc FM in the same capacity at the level that you feel most comfortable, and you can start your journey there and grow. Each of these tiers does have platform capabilities that align with the needs of the products within the bundle. So what that means is that within each of the product purchases you made, you get platform capabilities. So I'm going to pause there for a moment. That means that there is no platform SKU, but you will get it with every single purchase that you make of any Schneider Electric product as soon as it's released. I'm trying really hard not to say when it's released, because that is Vladan's opportunity to make the big splash here. So when people have asked me at DistribuTech, or even before that, when we circulated with his customers, how do we get this platform package? My answer is buy a Schneider Electric digital grid product. That's all you have to do. Simplicity, again. So another concept, key concepts for us is a lower total cost of ownership. So if you see a bunch of these bundled capabilities brought together, it's going to be offered at a lower cost than it would be to buy each one of these a la carte. And what we want to do is we want to package things together that allow you to accomplish all of your goals and have that form factor be something that can be just taken off the shelf and given to you. This should not only shorten implementation time, but the amount of time spent in negotiation for all of you, so you can get deployed and into production faster. Of course, you'll still have the opportunity to add on Schneider products. We recognize that not every bundle is going to have everything that you need. You will have the flexibility to do this as well. And then again, I just want to reiterate this one digital grid platform that I introduced and that Vladan will talk about in a moment. It will be a part of every single product experience. So if you purchase ADMS, it's coming with the ADMS. If you purchase Arc FM, that same platform capability, those same platform tools, that ability to leverage all of that data comes with the Arc FM. And so your ability to add ADMS to an Arc FM experience becomes that much easier because it's the same underlying architecture with all of them. Without going into too much more depth, I would love to hand this over to Vladan, who's going to speak a little bit about this architecture and then some of the other concepts that we've taken into account in building this, and then a pretty exciting use case, biased opinion, that we've already built that we're looking to pilot today as well. Vladan?
Thank you, Matt, so much. It's a great intro, and let me expand on that and try first to demystify the concept of one digital grid software platform. I like to say that the word platform is quite overused in the last couple of years, And whenever people build something, they call it the platform. Whenever customer buys something, they think they buy the platform. So it's a really overused term. So that's why it's important that we demystify and set the clarity about what do we actually think beyond the One Digital Grid software platform. This is the conceptual architecture of the One Digital Grid software platform, and let me expand on the couple of layers over here. I'll first focus on the bottom part, where we have the hybrid infrastructure services, grid data hub services, and core and AI services. Hybrid infrastructure services, why hybrid? So the reference architecture for the entire digital grid portfolio is through hybrid cloud. What that means? It means that the portfolio is organized in that way that the customer can pick and choose to deploy the certain applications or products, either on-prem or on cloud or in combination of both. For some of the modules, we took the exclusive right to, for instance, pick only one reference destination, like SCADA. SCADA will never go on cloud, or not in the soon future. So, for instance, for such model or for such pillars, it will be always deployed on-prem. While when we go to the non-critical environment, to the application layer, so customer has the flexibility to deploy certain things either on-prem or on cloud. While architecturally we have organized that those combinations really persists and exist for the customer flexibility. In the hybrid infrastructure services, so what we have done, so we organized all of what we call the infrastructure services that secure the common and single management of the entire digital grid portfolio. For instance, we are enforcing the single identity and access management, the single policy enforcement, certificate management, configuration management, Azure landing zone, physical and network reference architecture. So everything that has been historically connected to the product or to the solution now is streamlined in the common hybrid infrastructure services layer. While the benefit for the utilities is really to have the seamless and common management of the entire portfolio, either it is hosting on-prem or on cloud or in combination. So on top of hybrid infrastructure services, we built something that we call the grid data hub services. It's basically our set of services that consolidates all the data from the digital grid products or from the digital grid portfolio. But not only that, it enables the utilities to connect the other data sources in the utility legacy software landscape and start basically to build the language that is understandable by the utilities from their own data. So, for instance, all of data lakes, data fabrics, all of those classical IT technologies for the data storages are there to support storing and scaling of any data type, but they do not speak any language. So, especially they don't speak utility language. Under the grid data hub services, so we are building digital grid own proprietary meta model that basically allows the utilities to consolidate the digital grid data and beyond the digital grid data in order to drive the actionable insights driven by data in the future. On top of grid data hub services, so we have commonized what we call the core and AI services. So for instance, all our efforts on generative AI is not story that is just product centric. So it's the story that we have recognized it is the common for all products. And that's why we carved it out from the individual product and put into this layer. And to be very simple, core and AI services helps the utilities that, for instance, if the DERMS, ADMS, EMS, if all need the forecast, then the forecast is the ideal candidate to be organized as a core services. So we have recognized the set of the services that's going to be used across the multiple applications and put into that layer. Next slide. Let me now expand on the application layer. Over there, so traditionally we call it products, ADMS, DERMS, SCADA EMS, ArcFM editor, ArcFM designer, etc. Over there we say, let's just group into different pillars that we call grid planning and asset management, grid operations and resiliency, and grid flexibility and customer engagement. And those are digital grid end user applications. That's something that our end users are using every single day and what's visible for them. But since we recognize that the challenges shared by Matt are so huge for the utilities, we are aware that we cannot win this battle alone. So modernizing the grid management for the future is truly team sport of all software vendors, of all main competitors, of all SIs, of all partners. So it has to be open and flexible for everyone to stitch the digital grid platform. And that's why we have carefully designed the approach, how we bring the third-party softwares to the digital grid platform that can consume and utilize the power of platform services and especially grid data hub services over there. Because we are truly aware that there will be new use cases discovered in the future that we will not be able to support by ourselves, so where we want to bring this someone in this collective sport. And next slide. At the end, organization of all these layers in the digital grid conceptual architecture cannot be done without the clear principles that we have set in the front of every software engineer, every architect, every implementation leader, everyone who is dealing with this software portfolio. And we have identified 5 platform design principles over there. The first one is secure by design. Of course, zero trust architecture as an enabler of this concept is there in place, but it's not enough. It's not only that. Secure by design is really a principle at all levels. Whoever works on digital grid or with digital grid platform should follow the set of rules and principles that we have designed over there. Through hybrid deployment, I already said that the hybrid is our reference and designated architecture. It doesn't mean that we will be enforcing our customers to move pieces of the portfolio to the cloud. That's not our game. So our game is just to open the door and to enable flexibility for our customers that they leverage all benefits of the cloud, but also the keeping traditional paradigms for the on-prem deployments. Big data cloud architecture. So we are exponentially growing the number of the available data, but also we are exponentially growing the confusion with the data in the utilities. And the platform basically should make a balance of those two. How we demystify that huge volume of data and deconfuse a little bit for end users who should drive the actionable insights based on data. Open standard data model. So this platform is quite open to the external ecosystem. So we are organizing something that we call the common integration layer. It means there will be single point of entry and exit from digital grid platform to the external system, like a weather system, AMI headed, customer information system. So every system that we traditionally integrate with the digital grid portfolio will have the single integration point. And there is no point to or have peer-to-peer or product-by-product integration. So we organize that through the common integration layer. And finally, something that I was mentioning 2 or 3 years ago. So yeah, we're going to put AI wherever it makes sense. So 2 years ago, there was a hype AI everywhere. So in the utility industry, that's just a hype. So, but AI can truly bring the tangible benefits for the utilities, and that's why we carefully judge every use case by use case and equip our portfolio with AI where it makes sense. Today, we are quite maturing over there. We have dozens of places where we equipped our applications with machine learning based AI, but also we have opened the generative AI story with our AI assistants, with our copilots, with our tuning assistants, etc. So the last message on this conceptual architecture slide is that this is not the revolution, and we are not building this thing from scratch. This is the evolution, and this is the evolution that started probably 4 or 5 years ago, where we have been taking pieces by pieces of our products and re-architecting them in order to enable the convergence to one digital grid software platform. Having said that, as the result of multi-year efforts, I'm very proud to announce that this platform, with all applications on top, is available for sale in the 2025. So our scheduled release is end of 2025. So at that time, so this will be available for the deployment. So this is not something that is in front of us. This is something that is behind us. And we are just opening the door, releasing the platform 1.0, and opening the door for everyone to get connected to our ecosystem. So, and that's the good thing. So I believe that over here on the call, we have all engineers, and engineers don't like PowerPoints, they like real stuffs. So we are ready to come up to the market with the real stuffs. Next slide. So Let me also explain, so what do we expect and what did we envision with this platform? So we envision this platform as the enabler of certain changes that utilities should perceive once when they deploy. And if I look today, the landscape of utilities, when I talk to our valuable customers, so very frequently we can find the habits of the decentralized management and security. You have the application owners, product owners in the utilities, but there is pretty decentralized and heterogeneous environment that is very hard to scale for the grid of the future. We also find very decentralized and siloed data estates. The most powerful data exchange tool in the utilities, in many utilities today, is the Excel. So export to Excel and send to the guy, then import to the other app and start to learn from those data. So that's the reality. Then over provisioning and scalability. Due to traditional OT environments, when we buy the new software and the new hardware, we over provision. So we just buy more hardware than we need, and we just buy more licenses than we need. So we are pretty much overpaying for the software over there. I already mentioned very heterogeneous landscape with very costly integrations between them. And finally, there is the pretty lack of the agility. Traditionally in OT domain, so we always prioritize reliability and safety over the agility. And consequently, there is the long release cycle among all software vendors, but not because software vendors are lazy, just because customers cannot absorb new versions so quickly. So consequently, when customer deploys one version, they run a couple of years over there, and then they upgrade through the couple of years, etc. That's pretty slow process for the amount of uncertainty we face today in the grid. And the idea is how we can change that paradigm at a certain extent. Design principles of the platform that I've shared should change certain things, or should at least open the door for certain things to be changed. So for instance, security should not be decentralized and should not be organized in that way. Design principle of the secure by design principle should not only be with the software vendors, it should be with the utilities, and the platform enables that, that option for them. Lowering custom ownership. I was already talking about the over provisioning of the system and the software. So definitely this platform is envisioned to lower and minimize cost of ownership for the customer. Usually when we think about the cost of ownership, we just think on the implementation stage. Apparently this story will ease the implementation stage. But I'm thinking more once when we are done with the implementation, how do we scale? How do we evolve? How do we upgrade? Over that cost of ownership should be drastically reduced. AI-powered insights. We said the data is the fundament for the AI, and not only AI, but also for analytic. And how basically to drive the utilities to have the AI-powered and analytic-enabled insights rather than just the deterministics or the heuristics rules that we follow for decades. One of the things that I really love and that I imagine is how we can bring certain IT patterns in OT domain. If we look historically, IT side of the utility house is already on cloud, and they are already very agile, and they are always on the latest and greatest, and they are very familiar with explore, test, trial, fail, etc. So they are just adopting new things much faster. OT on the other side is very isolated environment with the rigid change management with the purpose, and it should not be removed. So rigid change management, prioritizing safety, prioritizing reliability, prioritizing availability of the system is the OT language. But how we can take a little bit of the agility and the faster time to value that IT already exploited and apply to the OT domain without breaking the OT habits and paradigms, that's something that we believe is going to be enabled with this platform. Faster time to value, I already mentioned it, and sustainable in long run is what we really believe that this platform brings. What that means, we don't know what's going to be the regulation changes, grid changes, and the grid challenges and the weather challenges that utilities will be facing in 5 or 10 years from now. So this platform is the flexible and elastic enough to help everyone to be ready for such unpredictable future. And that's what we really believe with that. Next slide. So I talked a lot about the conceptual architecture, and kind of IT or the software maintenance benefits that utilities will be getting with this. But that's not the prime story of this platform. This platform is not IT project for us. It's not a software project for us. For us, this is the business project with the end users in center and with a strong focus on the use cases that end users are exploiting. So this is not something that is built based on the IT principles. This platform is built on expertise, on the experience and the expertise that we have been collecting from the utilities worldwide and from the customers worldwide. And that's why today I wanna spend some time a little bit just on reminding ourselves on the Schneider Electric digital grid use cases that just will be enabled for the faster adoption and the faster scale with the platform than it was before. So we organized our use cases and applications into 3 pillars: grid planning and asset management, grid operations and resiliency, and grid flexibility and customer engagement. What I want to emphasize, the grid is the key of these use cases. And when I say the grid, I mean grid as the whole. It's not the distribution grid only, or not transmission grid only, or not the customers only. It's everything from the bulk generation over the transmission and sub-transmission network throughout the distribution and the low voltage network in and on US geographies. So that's how we envision our use cases, and that's how we've been guiding our portfolio, and that's what platform also additionally accelerates. So let me just remind about our existing capabilities under these use cases. Next slide. So for instance, if we speak about the grid planning and asset management, so ArcFM is one of our flagship products built on top of Esri, our GIS, that enables utilities to drive the static digital twin. Optimizing designs with the ArcFM designer is another use case that we are being very proud on the scale in the last couple of years. And elevated planning, so today serious asset management, serious GIS management, and serious planning is pretty interconnected. And all of these applications and the use cases that we have been bringing are now natively connected with the platform. Next set of use cases, next slide. We speak about grid flexibility and customer engagement. So we have our EcoStruxure DERMS as a flagship product over there. We also have the Edge DERMS through our Flex capabilities, and all of them together combines end-to-end DR management use case. But as I mentioned, this is the team sport, and this platform enables third parties to be connected for it. So for instance, in this case, so we're already working and partnering very closely with Upright, that is one of the Schneider companies, and bringing their solution to our One Digital Grid platform. And that's what we envision in the future as well. So if we acquire new companies, so we have the path for that company immediately, how that company will be connected to One Digital Grid software platform. And the third pillar is what we call grid operations and resiliency. So you're already probably a lot familiar with our ADMS and DERMS products, but also in our portfolio, we have the grid asset performance applications that basically brings to the operations all the asset data that are critical if you want to drive grid operations in a resilient way. Also major event mitigation. So we have been hearing from Matt what is the risk of the major events and what is the frequency and intensity of the major events. So definitely utilities want to be better prepared for it. And over there, for instance, we have the fire mitigation use case under our ADMS product combined with AI Dash product for vegetation management, which we are helping our utilities to better prepare for the major events. This is just very quick teaser of the use cases, but the whole point of this last couple of slides is just to say, hey, so we are not focused 100% time on the platform. So we are focused on the platform in order to enable end user use cases and the end user value for the distribution utilities. And that's why we call for our platform with this platform built on expertise. Next slide. Also, what we want to show today is very quick demo which we call the power of ecosystem, and which is our ideation of the holistic major event management. And let's jump to the demo immediately, and I'm going to explain what guys do you see over here. So, for instance, this is our designer application, and I'm currently designer in the utilities. As you can see, I'm able to see the fire risk areas during the design, but also I'm able to see the asset risks that traditionally comes from the asset performance management system. So for me, as the designer, I'm now able to design the grid with the respect of all resiliency inputs to the utilities. So for instance, over here, I'm deciding to upgrade this step line from the wood pole to the concrete poles in order to be more resilient for any major event that happens in this area. So without having all of these data available to me as the designer, so I won't be able to see it in real time. I would need to go to the different tabs basically to figure out what is the resiliency risk or what is the resiliency path for this particular area. What is good, once when I'm done with the design, this data gets immediately available to the rest of the digital grid portfolio. Over here we see our ADMS application, and I'm now in the control center where I can see the same fire risk polygon, and also I can see the same asset risk data, which are even considered in our switching operations or check before operate functionality. As you can see, as a different user persona, I'm leveraging different user application for the purpose, but the data within those applications are shared through the digital grid software platform. Over here in this particular use case, so we are also consuming the ESRI data. It means from the third party where we can put the ideal fire watcher positions in the use case, and also we can dig in deeply to the asset risks of this particular area. And let's go now to one of major event. Let's say that we are having the fire, and just the fire polygon is getting bigger and bigger and approaching to the grid. Fire watcher is getting the instruction to their mobile application that is also part of digital grid. This is our field client application, to disconnect this area and to escape from the location. They get immediately instruction to disconnect that area. They execute it, and they are able basically through this application to consume the ESRI optimal route application and to find the optimal and safe path just to escape from the high risky application. And this use case is what I call the art of possible, because what you have seen the different user personas that are traditionally sitting in different utility departments that are not speaking so frequently, and they are focused on their own use case and their own application. But what platform enables them is the data between those applications are just flowing seamlessly, and that the data only relevant for their daily job and for their use case is showed and contextualized to them in the different application. And over here you have seen designer application, GIS application, ESRI power of data, ADMS control center application, and field client, which is the field mobile application. Everything connected into one single and simple use case. Next. We also believe that this platform story is delivering value across the entire utility organization. So for the corporate management of the utilities, so this investment or this technology will maximize the investment and ensure the affordability for the utilities, but also for the end customers. So to have a more affordable electricity prices. Also grid operators, so they would be facing much easier life with a future-proof infrastructure enabled by this platform. And also guys who are working in the field that we never dismissed will have the real-time critical data and alerts and enhance safety for every of the field operations. So these are just the three key pillars, but I can expand to entire utility organization and landscape, and I can really confirm that the way we envision, the way we architecture, and the way we built or the way we elevated our existing products to one digital grid software platform is really bringing tremendous value. Next slide. I know that 15 minutes is a super short time period. To be honest, whenever I attend the webinar, so I'm hungry for more because I just get that first layer of the information, and I have a lot of questions, and some things are not clear to me how it is connected. That's just normal because this is a big thing for us, and this is a lot of information for us. So if we trigger that attraction, so let's work together and how we can build a better future over there. I have a couple of calls for action. So first one, if you want to find the next level of detail, visit our website, and you have a barcode over here. If you are our existing customers or existing prospects, contact our sales team or our account management to learn more. So we would be very happy to have a deep dive session with all of you. Also, follow our social media, follow us on LinkedIn, so where we will be sharing regularly the white papers and the more and more webinars. This is just the first webinar in the series, and we're going to talk more and more. But again, webinar is just the first and tiny level of details. That's not enough to connect the dots and exploit the full value. That's why we would really love to have the more intimate discussion about the platform benefits, how it is built, how it's going to be deployed, how it scales, and how it evolves. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you again, speakers. This was a great presentation for our audience. Although we've run out of time for live questions, we will pass those along to our panel. Also for our audience, we hope you will give us some feedback and take a moment with the survey that will be popping up to provide your feedback. Give us any other questions or comments. We'd love to hear them. Thank you so much for attending, and this does conclude today's presentation.